What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. I don't even know who this Synthogip was. He blocked me immediately afterwards. Apparently he's a Mutt guy. All I needed to do was get quoted in this. So, let me say, this is before the Clint 2 is better than one tweet. So this didn't get a whole lot of attention, in my opinion, based on the stupidity that was tweeted shortly thereafter. However, I was very surprised that Clint would talk about getting feedback from former teammate and GOAT, of course, we won't dispute that, Randy Moss. But how long were Randy and Clint actually teammates, I wondered. I tried to pull a transaction report. Clint was actually cut before the season, so all I could find in an article that actually features one of my videos is that his tenure was simply short-lived. So you'll never convince me that Clint did not intentionally quote that Randy Moss tweet in which he was not mentioned to draw attention to Randy Moss's name, because shortly thereafter, the Yard does what we all expected the Yard to do. Put out microtransaction-based equipment for someone to buy. And this is really troubling to me as a video game fan, because I see a company that has access and possibly even a friendship to one of the greatest players of all time. And rather than utilize him as a resource to improve their game, they're utilizing him as a brand to sell meaningless apparel within a video game. This mossed gear, which literally has moss. Now, I asked, and I didn't even let this finish because I saw all that I needed. How much Yard cred could you realistically earn in a single day? This is going to become very important in just a moment because the majority of people you can see say 30,000 or less. Now, why is that so important? Well, if you look at this cred, keep in mind you would need 137,000 to buy the Mossed Jumbo Bundle. Also, I need you to pay very specific and close attention that this is only a limited time offer for this epic gear, which gives you just over 4 days. So that would tell you right there that it's extremely unlikely that most gamers would be able to play enough to get this equipment before it was gone. Meaning you're putting the actual user in a position where they have to, if they want it, purchase this equipment. Keep in mind, this is expensive. I mean, based on their own standard of, $275 for a jersey, this whole set, if you look at Madden's purchase points, would roughly run you right around $20 to $18, depending on whether you are a Play Pro member or not. So the question becomes, did Clint Oldenburg intentionally quote a tweet to nonchalantly bring attention to Randy Moss's name right before he knew EA was going to release $20 virtual clothing for Randy Moss? I know to some people this is just not even a big deal. I know to some people this is just subliminal advertising, but the reality is it's more than that to me because this shows the direction this game is going. Okay, Randy Moss should be helping Madden on so many different levels. If you want to use him in conjunction with the Yard, if you want to use him in conjunction with Superstar KO, that's okay. But I think we're a little bit early in the run for them to be outright pushing virtual clothing to children. And make no mistake, that's what I firmly believe in my heart. You're welcome to your own opinion. I firmly believe at my core that is exactly what this is. This is a gaming company that is selling digital clothing to children, and they're having some of their game developers subliminally advertise it while seeming to look more important and bring you a closer connection to that person. I will like Randy Moss more because Randy Moss used to be a teammate of the person that develops my game, and therefore I'm more compelled to ask a family member if I can have a credit card to pay $20 because I need this epic gear for my character to wear in a game mode that actually isn't based on simulation football, which this game has the exclusive ability to sell. I know that's a lot, but I want you to let that sink in. That at some point, a former NFL lineman that we once championed working on a game because we felt he would provide us hands down the best product he could with his NFL expertise, is now leaning on that expertise to help generate revenue for digital clothing in the yard, which is a 3 versus 3 user experience that has no simulation football base. It is meant to replicate backyard football. The highest level of unprofessional football you can get is backyard football. So when you see things like hashtag Fix Madden Franchise, when you see things like hashtag NFL Drop EA, and you wonder where it comes from, or you don't understand why people are frustrated with the game, these are the things that you probably overlook or don't think twice about. I know me personally, unless someone had emailed me this, I would have never known. Unless someone actually said to me, hey, look at what's going on here, I have never went into the yard to look at the digital clothing. But the fact that someone sat there and realized, hey, it's awful ironic Clint is doing this, and all of a sudden this gear is here, and all of a sudden this gear is limited time. You know, this limited time digital clothing also represents its own issues, which we can probably discuss at a later point, but I don't know how anyone can be comfortable with this. This to me is just too much of a microtransaction for a football game. You know, if we were talking about a different type of game, if we were talking about a standalone Madden game, if we were talking about a, battle game where you're purchasing armor, you're purchasing something along those lines, where there's a lot more use to the product, you can use it for a lot more tasks, so to speak, but to sell digital clothing, which can only be worn in a single game mode, which was an added addition this year, one of the few things they actually added into the game, that to me creates a real challenge. That to me says all I need to know about where the direction of this game was. Knowing that all of this is actually limited to just that game mode tells me beyond the shadow of a doubt that when they were sitting down to build this game mode, one of the core things they were focused on is how can we get digital clothing in our game but limit it to only one game mode. Right? This doesn't make sense in head-to-head. This doesn't make sense in regs. It doesn't really make sense in MUT. It certainly doesn't make sense in offline or franchise. Why would you have a team wearing a paid jersey or a player wearing a paid outfit when you need your team to all look the same? The only time you're going to have a game where your team looks different is the yard. So it seems like they weren't really focused on giving us the best game or the best experience. They were focused on how we can exploit the user more to give us more money in microtransactions. And then secondarily, they have people on their team that are willing to exploit relationships they have with players to make sure that the user feels compelled to purchase this limited time gear because they only have a handful of days to get it. And most of the community agrees there's no way without paying for it or playing this game to a level of nauseousness practically that you would be able to get it without the actual additional purchase of points to offset the cost of the items. Love to know your guys' thoughts on this, because I'm sure there's going to be people that go one way, and I'm sure there's going to be people that go the other, but that's why we're here, to have a conversation about the state of this game, and hopefully get it to where we can talk about football, and not uniforms with moss all over them. You know I will be back in the week with more commentary.